I have heard your mockery. Now, prepare to hear the truth of humanity.
The Galactic Council had one rule. Humans were weak. For 200 years, every alien species agreed on that fact. Humans were smaller, slower, and physically weaker than most races in the galaxy. And no one believed that more than the mighty Kharon Empire. Inside the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of worlds watched as the human ambassador was publicly humiliated. The human race has nothing unique to offer the galaxy, sneered a Kharon commander. Laughter echoed across the chamber. The ambassador remained silent. Because deep down, he knew humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It wasn't strength. It wasn't numbers. It was something much older. Thousands of light years away, on a forgotten farming planet, 18-year-old Emma Carter sat beside her grandfather. To everyone else, he was just an old farmer. Nothing special. Nothing important. But every night he told her stories. Stories about wars. Strategies. Impossible battles. And one lesson he repeated again and again. Never show your strongest card first. Emma rolled her eyes. Grandpa, we're farmers. The old man smiled. That's exactly why nobody suspects us. Suddenly the sky turned red. Emergency alarms exploded across the colony. People ran into the streets. Above them, hundreds of gigantic alien warships emerged from hyperspace. The Kharon Empire had arrived. Their flagship alone was larger than an entire city. Within minutes, every defense satellite around the planet was destroyed. The colony governor's voice trembled across every speaker. This is a planetary emergency. All civilians evacuate immediately. Panic spread. Children cried. Families ran. And through all the chaos, Emma noticed something strange. Her grandfather wasn't scared. Not even a little. Instead, he was smiling. Then he quietly looked toward the invasion fleet and said, "After 70 years." His eyes narrowed. "They finally found me." The evacuation alarms continued to echo across the colony as massive Kharon warships filled the sky. People ran in every direction. Some cried. Some prayed. Others simply stared at the impossible fleet descending from the clouds. But Emma couldn't take her eyes off her grandfather. "Grandpa," she whispered. "What did you mean they finally found you?" The old man slowly stood from his chair. For the first time in years, his posture changed. The tired farmer suddenly looked like a soldier. A commander. A man who had spent a lifetime giving orders. Before he could answer, dozens of black armored dropships slammed into the field surrounding the farm. The ground shook violently. Alien soldiers poured out. Their weapons immediately locked onto the small farmhouse. Emma's heart nearly stopped. Why are they here? Her grandfather sighed. Because they're not here for the colony. He looked directly at the approaching army. They're here for me. The front ranks of alien soldiers suddenly split apart. A tall armored commander stepped forward. The moment he saw Emma's grandfather, his expression changed. Fear. Real fear. The commander immediately dropped to one knee. Every soldier behind him did the same. Thousands of heavily armed warriors kneeling before an old farmer. Emma couldn't believe what she was seeing. The commander lowered his head. "We finally found you, Supreme Strategist." Emma froze. Supreme Strategist? Her grandfather? The commander continued. For 70 years, the Emperor has searched the galaxy for the human who destroyed 3 Imperial fleets. Emma stared at her grandfather. Destroyed 3 fleets. The old man rubbed the back of his neck. I was younger back then. The commander didn't smile. We lost millions because of you. The atmosphere became deadly silent. Then a transmission appeared in the sky. A giant hologram of the Kharon Emperor himself. The ruler of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. His cold eyes locked onto the old man. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then the Emperor finally said, "You are the only human I ever feared." The entire colony fell silent. And for the first time, Emma realized that her grandfather wasn't just hiding from the galaxy. The galaxy had been hunting him for 70 years. The colony stood frozen. Millions watched as the hologram of the Kharon Emperor filled the sky. The most powerful ruler in the galaxy had just admitted that he feared one man. And that man was Emma's grandfather. The old farmer looked up at the enormous projection and smiled. "You're older than the last time I saw you." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "And you're harder to kill than expected." A nervous laugh escaped Emma. Nobody else laughed. The Emperor wasn't joking. 70 years earlier, Elias Carter had vanished after leading the most devastating military campaign in human history. 3 Kharon invasion fleets had entered human space. Only one ship returned. Since then, the Empire had spent decades searching for him. Not for revenge. For fear. The Emperor spoke again. "Tell me, Elias. Did you really think you could hide forever?" Elias glanced at Emma. "No. I only needed enough time." "Time for what?" the Emperor demanded. The old man's eyes softened. "To teach my granddaughter." The Kharon commanders exchanged confused looks. An entire galactic empire had crossed thousands of light years for a retired strategist. And he was talking about his granddaughter. The Emperor laughed. A cold, cruel laugh. "You sacrificed your legendary career to train a child?" Elias nodded. "Yes." The Emperor's amusement quickly vanished. "Then your final lesson ends today." A countdown appeared above the colony. Orbital strike authorization, 60 seconds. Panic erupted. People screamed. Families rushed toward shelters. Emma felt her hands shaking. 60 seconds. An entire planet would be reduced to ashes. She turned toward her grandfather. For the first time, she saw no fear in his face. Only confidence. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metallic data chip. The same chip he had protected for decades. He placed it in Emma's hand. "Everything I know is in there." Emma stared at it. "Grandpa, what am I supposed to do?" Elias looked toward the enemy fleet. Thousands of warships. Millions of soldiers. An unstoppable empire. Then he smiled. "The same thing I've been teaching you since you were a little girl." Emma swallowed nervously. "What lesson?" The old man pointed at the fleet. And quietly said, "Find the weakness." Then the orbital countdown dropped to 30 seconds. 30 seconds remaining. The giant countdown burned across the sky like a death sentence. All around the colony, people were running for shelter. Military officers were shouting orders. Mothers held their children tightly. Everyone believed the planet was about to die. Everyone except Elias Carter. And now, Emma. Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind. Find the weakness. With trembling hands, she inserted the data chip into a nearby command console. The screen exploded with information. Thousands of battle reports. Fleet formations. Enemy tactics. Decades of classified intelligence. At first it looked impossible. Then she noticed something. A pattern. Every Kharon fleet formation relied on a single command vessel hidden near the center of the armada. It wasn't the biggest ship. It wasn't the strongest. But it synchronized every weapon, shield, and communication system in the fleet. Without it, the entire formation would collapse. Emma's heart raced. There. She zoomed in. A small vessel buried among thousands of warships. No one would ever target it. Except someone trained by Elias Carter. 20 seconds remaining. Emma transmitted the coordinates to the colony's remaining defense cannon. An officer laughed. Are you insane? One cannon can't destroy an Imperial fleet. Emma ignored him. She remembered every lesson. Every story. Every strategy. Her grandfather had spent 17 years preparing her for this exact moment. 10 seconds remaining. The Emperor watched from his flagship. He looked completely confident. Victory was seconds away. Then Emma pressed the fire command. A single beam of energy shot into space. The Kharon commanders laughed. One shot. Against thousands of warships. Pathetic. Then the beam struck the hidden command vessel. For 1 second. Nothing happened. Then everything happened. Fleet communications failed. Shield networks collapsed. Targeting systems shut down. Thousands of ships suddenly lost synchronization. The perfect formation shattered. Across the fleet, alarms erupted. Panic spread among the Kharon commanders. The Emperor's smile vanished. Emma looked at the timer. 7 seconds. It had taken only 7 seconds for the most powerful fleet in the galaxy to begin falling apart. Beside her, Elias Carter smiled proudly. And for the first time, the Kharon Empire realized something terrifying. They hadn't feared the wrong human. They had feared the right one. And now there were two of them. The Kharon fleet was in chaos. Warships collided with one another. Communication channels flooded with emergency signals. Commanders screamed orders that never reached their destinations. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Kharon Empire looked vulnerable. And all because of 7 seconds. The Emperor stared at the collapsing battle formation in disbelief. His fleet had conquered hundreds of worlds. Defeated countless civilizations. Yet a teenage girl had done what entire armies could not. She had broken the Empire's perfect strategy. The Emperor's face darkened. "Destroy the planet," he roared. But it was already too late. Without the command vessel, the fleet's orbital weapons couldn't coordinate their attack. Across the galaxy, human colonies had been watching the battle live. Now they saw something they had never seen before. The Empire could bleed. The Empire could fail. And the Empire could be beaten. Messages began flooding into Haven 7. Human defense fleets. Volunteer pilots. Retired soldiers. Within minutes, thousands of ships changed course toward the colony. Humanity was coming. The Emperor realized what had happened. This was never about winning a single battle. It was about hope. For 70 years, Elias Carter had hidden from the galaxy. Not because he was afraid. Because he was preparing a successor. Someone who could carry the lesson forward. The old man looked at Emma and smiled. "You see it now, don't you?" Emma nodded. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't a ship. It wasn't a superweapon. It wasn't advanced technology. It was the ability to learn. To adapt. To find a solution when everyone else saw defeat. The very thing her grandfather had spent a lifetime teaching her. Above the planet, hundreds of human warships emerged from hyperspace. Then thousands more. The Kharon commanders watched in horror as humanity united for the first time in generations. The Emperor clenched his fists. He finally understood why Elias Carter had been so dangerous. One human strategist had nearly destroyed his empire. Now there were millions inspired by the same lesson. The Emperor ordered a retreat. For the first time in Kharon history. The Empire ran. Cheers erupted across Haven 7. People celebrated in the streets. Children waved human flags. And as the sun began to rise, Emma stood beside her grandfather. "Was this your plan all along?" she asked. Elias smiled. "Not exactly." "Then what was?" The old man looked toward the stars. "To make sure humanity never forgets who it is." Years later, history books would record the event as the 7-second victory. They would remember the fleet. They would remember the emperor. But most of all, they would remember a grandfather who spent 17 years teaching a girl a lesson the galaxy could never understand. Humanity's greatest strength is not power. It's perseverance.